the things that you talk about as far as being a mom, because a lot of the people that are listening right now, that are watching and listening right now, they're moms. There's a lot of moms, and there's a lot of moms that have the guilt mom syndrome.
Oh,
and
okay.
They feel bad, right? Because they're working hard, they're after it. And I'm inspired by you because you have a whole different way of looking at things that I so agree with. So tell us about that. You know what I'm talking about. So tell me about.
Let me share something with you. And I haven't come out with a program or a book about this, but I will at some point. In fact, my first book was going to be called Being Mom. And the first person I interviewed about being a celebrity mom was Kris Jenner. And that's kind of funny. And I ended up giving Kim Kardashian her very first infomercial on television. If you actually go to YouTube and type in Forbes Riley and Kim Kardashian, before she was anybody, I helped give her first start in television.
Wow.
So just so you know, Mr. Daniel, I have a knack for finding talent. I found Billy Blanks. I found, a lot of people along the way. But being a mom is really important. I have a lot of philosophies, actually very specific philosophies on how kids get to share, on the whole I want game, on how you train your kids to really, and I think it worked. Now I had two at the same time, so I could kind of experiment on my kids. But I used to train dogs as a young girl. And I'm in the book, the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, I'm in the book called Busy Working Moms. And this story that I created is there about how you train your kids like dogs. At the time when I had my kids, that horrible show called The Nanny, where that British nanny used to run around and she used to go to people's homes, and kids were running amok. And I thought in my life, my children, no one's gonna run my life like that. I said, so there must be some systems to how to do this. And so I started the What Do You Want game, which I still play to this day. I have my two little babies come up, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. If your kids are over like 8 or 9, don't try this. But if they're little, I would say they always want something, right? Hey, mommy, I want milk. I want a cookie. Great. I would say, well, if you want a cookie, I want you to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And they would wiggle, 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 both of them. Very cute. And then I would do 10 things in sequence. I said, if you want a cookie, touch your nose. If you want a cookie, touch your head. If you want a cookie, count to 3. 1, 2, 3. If you want a cookie, and I would end it by saying, give your sister or brother a hug. If you want, and I would say these exact words. If you want a cookie, say I love you, and they would. And then I said, if you want a cookie, turn to me and say, I love you, mommy, and give me a big hug. Well, to this day, I'm going to tell you something. My kids don't really fight over things. I can still get them to do something if they say I want, because that's the moment that when a dog is begging, going, I want the treat, I want the treat. You say, give me your paw. I'm like, okay, give me your paw. They give you a treat. It's the same psychological concept of reward and for pleasure. So when a kid says, hey, mom, I want this, you say, well, great, I want this. My kids are like, okay. I tried it at a party when they're about 9 years old. My son and daughter were like, hey, mom, I want this. I looked at them, and there's a whole bunch of people who knew this story, right? But the kids don't really get it. And I said, really, you want that? I said, well, if you want that, I want you to clean your room. And they were like, okay. And people looked at me like, I'm like, I know, trust me. I did, and every day, now this is funny. My daughter got mad at me because I think we were in such a rush lately that I was saying goodbye on the phone and I wasn't saying I love you. And she pulled me aside and said, mommy, I don't understand this. She said, every time we hang up the phone, every time we see each other, we have to say I love you. Don't know if I'm ever gonna see you again. And I'm thinking, I put that in her head when she was little. They always said, I love you, mommy. So think about if you're a parent and you don't get that, but you want it. My sister many, many years ago told me that what you do with your kids is what you do with your kids. Like, what does that mean? If you put your kids in your bed to sleep when they're little, they're gonna wanna stay in your bed. It's gonna be hard to kick them out. If you let your kids run all over you, it's kind of hard to rein them in. And so this whole philosophy has served me well. Knock on wood, I have 2 beautiful teenagers who say I love you. My son still, we were at the bleachers yesterday. He plays quarterback on the football team, which is kind of cool, and a straight A student. He's 6'3". And my daughter just got a shout out from Russell Brunson in front of 30,000 people because she builds my funnels, and she's a marketing whiz. And she's been on stage with me since she was about 12 years old. And she used to sit at the back of HSN and listen to me and come to masterminds. And she even, with my Spin Gym product, saved my company $48,000. We turned that into a book called Every Company Needs a Kid.
Wow, I love that. That's McKenna, right? McKenna.
Yeah, so McKenna is
Riker,
one.
right? And your son's
Yeah, you did your research. I'm adoring you.
No. I just think it's so cool because you talk about moments of memories, right? And
that's
so,
okay.
But see, to me, I love that because, so explain to us what that means to you.
All right, so let's start with a book that's not come out yet. And it's funny, I have 3 of her books that have not come out yet, and people don't know this, and I've actually don't think I've ever said this public, but I will. I was going blind for 3 years. I couldn't see anything. I had contacts and glasses and glasses, and the glasses were everywhere, and I still couldn't see shit. And it was about the time the phones kind of came out, and I thought, oh, no one's ever going to want these phones because you can't see them. Well, I couldn't see them. Turns out, and it's a long story, but I had cataracts. I had very clear cataracts, and my eye lenses were hardening. There was a surgery for this, and now I don't wear glasses at all. So during that time, I created a lot of books that I've yet to publish. One of them was called Redefinitions, how you redefine life one word at a time. So because I have this whole story about success and what success means to you. And Daniel, if I said to you, are you successful? What would you say?
In certain areas, yeah.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, in certain areas of my life, I've been successful. There's other areas that I got some work to do.
No, here's what's interesting. You're successful in every area. It's how you define it. Your definition of success, I'm going to tell you, for everything that you do is probably your worst day is better than most people's best day.
I do agree with that. Yes.
That is interesting how you serve yourself with this confidence.
Very grateful.
As soon as you said it, you're like, oh, and you can train yourself to go, yes, I'm successful. You know why? Because, and I tell the story real fast, but I pulled up to a Beverly Hills big party when I was in my early 20s, just bought a car for cash, but it was like a yellow Toyota. For me, that was a big deal. I had no money growing up, okay? In fact, I once worked for a very wealthy family in Cincinnati. I said, who's it? She said, you'll learn. And I said, I will. I didn't know these things. You don't know what you don't know, right? So I pulled up to this big Beverly Hills party in my little yellow Toyota stick shift. I was so freaking proud. I paid cash for this thing. This was major. But the guy, the valet, who probably made 1/100th of what I would make, had this look on his face because he just parked the Bugatti and the Rolls and the Ferrari. And I'm like, I felt a little like, oh, all right. And then there's like a candy wrapper, so it wasn't even that clean. And I felt bad. I made myself bad. Just the way you just did when I said, are you successful? You were like, oh, and I'm like, okay. Then I go into the party. Here's the worst part about this Hollywood party. Everybody in that room was prettier, thinner, richer, and more famous than I was. Every single person, thinner, richer, famous, and more beautiful. And I knew that, and I don't drink, so I couldn't hide my feelings. You know what I did, Daniel? I left. I went out. I didn't know how to handle it. I got back in my car, and I drove away. You know what I missed out on? I missed out on my husband, my movie career, my new agent, a best friend. That hurt me so bad when I realized what I had missed out on. And one day my girlfriend, Christine, said, you know, you're the most successful person I know. And I said, oh, is that because I speak on stage and I'm on TV? And she said, nope. She said, it's because you can walk across a floor in high heels and a tight skirt anytime you want, and I never will. Because she's got cerebral palsy, she will never walk. So when someone asks if you're successful, just smile and say, thank God I am.
Thank God I am, and so grateful, so grateful for all of our blessings, no doubt about that. I mean, tell us though, I mean, you know, as far as, because obviously you're building successful kids, but you've also worked incredibly hard through the years to achieve what you've achieved. You've traveled, you've missed birthday parties, you've missed, you know, and I know your son, right? He used to say, like, whatever day is, any day could be my birthday. And I love that because
yes, you know,
let me tell you something, Forbes, no playing around. This is why I'm so inspired by you, because we do the same crap. You know what I mean? Like I built my family. I have an amazing family, but we've built that family on those principles that, look, I mean, sometimes I got to go. Sometimes I got to do this. Sometimes I got to make some, look, if a client calls me up and says, look, be over at my house at 7 o'clock tonight, because I want you to do business. If it's my son's birthday, we say, no problem. We'll do the birthday tomorrow. It's not one day. People miss big events. They miss important things in their life. There you go. She just gave her -- man a kiss on camera. For all of you on the podcast that were wondering what the silence was for there. But we've been able to do the same things, and it works. I never felt guilty for working hard. I never felt guilty for not being there every moment.
All right, so I'm going to play a game with you. What I built here, you sound actually, I don't know how you transformed, but I had to go through some major shifts. And I have a 5-day training that I do called Forbes Factor Live. Check that out at
Love it.
I literally change lives. This is one of the things that I'm committed to, because I'm listening to you and I'm so inspired, and I look at you and you're beautiful, and your kids, I'm sure, are beautiful. But most people are stuck. So can I play a game with you? Can I turn the table?
Yeah.
All right, so this is an exercise that I ask people all over the world because it gives them insight into who they are. Ready? What's your first memory in life?
Climbing to the top of the house and jumping off the house. I mean,
Okay, so stop.
That's the first thing that popped in my head right now.
That's perfect. And when you hang out with me, you'll understand how important that is. All right. First of all, you can't ever say, I don't know in my life. If I say I don't know, you have to hit you in the head.
Okay, all right.
That closes every possibility of doorways. What decision did a little boy make about life based on the fact that he climbed to the top of the house and jumped off and was fine?
That I could do anything. That
Stop.
I could do anything.
So stop. Let me ask you a question. I can do anything. How does that run your life, my friend?
How does it run my life?
I can do anything. That's
I can. I mean, it's defined my life. I mean,
let me tell you something.
Like,
How different would your memory have been if you jumped off and broke your leg, mom and dad weren't there, and strangers had to take you to the hospital?
Totally different.
Your life would have been totally different.
Right.
So I interview people this way all the time. You are one of the top 1% of people. There's only 1% of anyone I've ever talked to that has a happy first programming memory. I can do anything runs Daniel Alonzo's life. It's why you're listening to him. It's why he's smiling. It's why he's successful. So then you say, well, wait, I didn't have that. I was the kid who fell off the roof and broke my leg. Mom and dad weren't there, and I made a decision about life that no one's ever going to help you. You have to do it on your own and struggle. That decision I hear from so many grown people, okay? And what I have the ability to do is go in there and fix your first memory so that it's as positive and wonderful as you are. Because I'm going to tell you, you're running around coaching people, telling them they can have everything. And the problem, Daniel, is they don't have your first memory. They don't have the wiring. And I call this recall, rewire, and reboot. And we do this with your brain, because part of what my passion, maybe I had all those time I spent alone, your brain has a phenomenal way of working, and it's not you. Your brain is not you, and you are not your brain. In fact, your brain is an organ, and it's the only organ that named itself. Think about it. And there's pathways that fire. And what happens is you can adjust those pathways. And I've come to this conclusion, this is my theory, that your brain is like a computer, okay? If I said the word high school, what files pop up for you right now? Pictures, documents, videos, all kind of files. And every one of them is in a file cabinet, right? Well, that's great. So and by the way, somehow we take these horrible memories of us and we put them in a file with a big bow on it. And we meet somebody new, they go, wow, I can't wait to tell you how crappy my life has been. Let me tell, and you're like, why? You can take that, and you can take that big, horrible memory, and you never forget them, but you can take it and put it behind something that's a lot less tragic. And it's how I survived having a young man that I raised for 12 years, Dexter, murdered. It's how I survived the death of both my parents. It's how I get through a day sometimes, because I've had some horrible things happen. And the way you organize your brain and what you focus on, it is something that you can fix. It's not therapy. I don't need 2 years. In fact, I do this in 30 minutes with somebody, and I can even do it on a Zoom call. I can tweak that so you become happy forever. And I will tell you, Daniel, I'm sure you have clients who you have given the keys to the kingdom. You've told them all the things that work for you, but they didn't work for them. Forbes factor is the difference.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.